Oh gosh.
Camera.
On camera, you said.
I don't like it.
Okay, we're good.
I like the camera and not.
Our max viewership for this all week was 2.
Really?
So,
Oh, I
Two?
saw
Yeah.
that.
I think one day there was 4. Oh, 4 views. Never mind. Sorry.
This
Ooh.
works for
Yes.
Wait,
Thank you.
Sound stuff as well.
Working.
Can I see how you're going through?
Wait. Scooch it. Okay, yeah.
so then we just had
Scooch it
one
to the end.
deal.
The audio is more important.
Yeah.
I did broadcast in high school.
All right, that's good.
For like sports.
So anything else you
And
need for
my
you guys?
parents.
Nope, that's it. You so
Thanks,
much.
Paul. Thanks, yeah, of course.
One time we had 9 people and it was really exciting.
Really? I mean, that's probably like.
All right, that's
a little
good.
nerve-wacking, too.
Oh yeah, no,
All right,
because I was commentating.
Yeah, where's
Okay.
we're missing Farzad?
Farzad should be here
Brendan's
soon.
not gonna be here till noon.
Anna is running late in class.
What?
Simra's proxy got injured.
Injured.
And when
That's
you guys
scary.
present, if you guys can stand over there, I can put it for you, but it's not gonna see you guys.
It's not gonna
I'm
work.
pretty sure she's ready
You said?
for she'd be.
If you could,
I didn't hear you.
when you
say.
do your presentation, stand over there. Oh, not
Uh-huh.
your email, not your email.
We'll have pizza.
Go over that.
Not that.
Yeah, pizza. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'll stay on that.
Okay, here we go. How do you, Megan? How do we get this in present view?
Wait, so this goes running into you gotta go completely out of it and then back in. That was the issue we had yesterday during transit. Button? Yeah. Okay, cool. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danae Stavian, and I'm the student body president. And so I have here with me.
I'm the treasurer, my name's Ethan Sloggy.
And I'm Pam Penny, and I'm the Fund and Development Director.
And so we're going to present the student senate fee ask. I'm just kind of going to be here. It's mostly going to be Ethan and Ham talking to you guys.
All right, so just for the agenda, today we're going to go over the activity fee and then our budget for administration. In addition, we'll go over our ask for line block Wednesday night, and we'll explore how we plan to structure a zero portion of these funds to help resolve the debt we have currently with Student Senate. And then at the end, we'll have Hamp go over the CDF and EOF ask for his funds. And next. All right, just to go over the budget here, there's a couple of bigger changes that I've outlined. The red number means that it increased from last year, and the green means we decreased. And then right here, you have the black, which means it stayed the same. So the biggest increases we have the increase in salaries, travel funds, and then the KUID cards. And if you don't know what that's referring to, I believe it's for students that are transitioning to different genders, so they get their name changed. And so we increase it to 2 more KUID cards from this new number. And then we're decreasing funds for events. It's not like a crazy thing. We're just taking away the amount of drinks we offered at the holidays and higher ed. We had a lot of excess. We're just trying to save some money there. And then overall, that will add up to a little over $150,000, which is a 2.8% increase from last year's overall budget. I believe the number was about $146,000. And then one last note, we added the position. That's why the stipend stayed the same. It wasn't going to be at $7,000, it was back at $7,500. We added Molly's ex officio seat for the city commission. Just kind of go over what they're going to do. They will have to attend city commission meetings, I think it's 3 times a month, and will speak on behalf of students. And they'll also attend the student senate meetings, and they'll report back any information to the government relations director, and it will be a legislative position, but they'll report to executive director, just kind of make a bridge between the 2 branches. All right, now we're going to get into the intricacies of the student senate activity fee and what the fee will actually cover. And here we're going to see that the fee will generate revenue for our line, Wednesday night fund, and block allocation pools. These are the funds we'll end up allocating to the various departments and student orgs that we have here on campus. And I'll elaborate more on these 3 funds in a couple slides in the breakdown of those funds. So just so you have this number, so you can have it in mind for the rest of the presentation, our total ask for the activity fee for this fiscal year will be $21.95, and I think the next slide will kind of go into how it's broken down. Yeah, so then for that number, we're breaking it down between $18.50 per block. That will generate about $800,000 in revenue. The line fee amount of $250 generate revenue a little over $100,000, and the Wednesday night fund fee of 95 cents generate an amount a little over $40,000. So for a total of $21.95 for the whole fee. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of the details of these funds. All right, now going into line block and Wednesday night fee proposal, we're proposing a combined increase of $3.25 to fund these 3 pools. And kind of going into what these will fund, line will fund smaller groups like mock trial, model UN, SASA, BSU. block will fund the bigger groups and departments like the Lead Center, Natural History Museum, etc. And Wednesday night fund will help fund smaller projects and student work initiatives such as supplies and food for their meetings, or just help them supplement their endeavors, whatever that may be. And now going into our line funding ask for this fiscal year. So previous fiscal year 25, this year, our line funding was set at $100,000. We're proposing to stay at that amount, but to only use 80K of this to allocate for line, and that 20K remaining we put towards the debt we have. If you're not familiar, we have a $170,000 deficit due to the misinterpretation of what 90-day reserve and carry forward is. So that $20,000 will go straight toward resolving our fund, resolving the debt, and kind of replenishing our reserve that took the money out in the first place. Now going into block, last year, this fiscal year, we asked for $820. We want to bring it down to $800,000, then only allocate $750,000 of that amount for the allocations and bring $50,000 towards the deficit and the debt. So $50,000 plus 20K from the line will give $70,000 total in resolving the debt. It's like a little bit, about 40% of our debt being resolved just from those two funds, having the portions going straight to our debt. And Wednesday night, we're not touching it, but looking back at fiscal year 25 this year, we started at 80 grand, and this was a big misallocation. It was an invalid amount, like I said, due to the problem from mixing up 90-day reserve and carry forward. And KU administrators were really nice, and they gave us $40,000 to help us still get allocations, which is why on the next slide, I wanted to keep that the same, because I believe we're doing a really good job so far. We started this semester at $22,000, and that kind of shows that we're doing half 20K in the first semester, half in this next semester we're doing right now. So we're on pace to have enough money to give to a student org, so I think it's a good benchmark to keep going with. Decreasing would not only help our deficit in general for block and line, but I argue that it's honestly necessary to show KU admin that we're demonstrating some fiscal responsibility in helping resolve our debt and kind of fixing it earlier rather than later. And now I'm going to pass off to Ham for the EOF ask.
Yes. So the EOF, for those of you who don't know, is the Educational Opportunity Fund. So I listed some of the different things that these allocations can go towards. It's things like scholarships, fellowships, grants, student salaries for specific niche jobs that are offered at the university. And so we're asking for a decrease of 30 cents. So that's going to be a decrease of just under 7% compared to fiscal year 25 last year. So it's going to generate, it was currently at $4.30. We're asking for a $4 fee. This is going to generate a decrease of approximately $13,000 based on revenue estimates from projected numbers for enrollment in fiscal year 26. This past year, we were able to allocate, or Chris was able to allocate in EOF processes last year about $246,000 and change, right around that number. So this is really part of a component, as it says here, just to address kind of some of these fiscal irresponsibility issues that we've had. Cuts are going to have to be made across the board. And this is just really one small facet of working towards addressing this deficit. We're operating in a deficit. This is a component of trying to minimize spending wherever possible in order to get us back on track and not to cause further financial problems down the road.
So I go over overall fee proposal. So our ask once again is for an increase of $3.25, 29 of that going for an increase in line, 15 cents going for an increase in block, and Wednesday night will stay the same. And just to kind of clarify, these increases and decreases are in respect to the fee amounts that were outlined in the KU budget book, and we brought in less revenue than we actually projected due to the misreading of the carry forward 90-day reserve mishap. So the increases and decreases, it made me kind of confused. They don't add up to the 325. It's because it was taken from the wrong numbers. You look back in the budget book, we were projecting about $22 per student in revenue. We actually brought in $18.75. So I couldn't get the exact numbers correct, but in general, I just want to get that information just so we have it set. But the numbers are valid. I just don't have the actual number due to the misinterpretation of the budget book. Yeah, so EOF would decrease by 30 cents. And just to make it clarify, all these metrics are in terms of the student activity fee equivalent. And I'm happy to go more in depth into why these don't add up during the deliberation. I know it's confusing. I apologize for that.
Thank you so much. Chris?
I had 2 questions if I could. Oh, do we not have microphones? We're just.
No, just not.
Okay. You're asking for a decrease to the Educational Opportunity Fund of 30 cents. How much would need to be cut in these allocations?
That's an interesting question, and the short answer is we don't really know, because we don't, I think Casey might be able to better explain some of this, but I was having a conversation with her, and we don't really know, because we won't know how much revenue is rolling over from last year until some unknown date. I don't know, Casey, if you could provide more information on that.
The EOF allocation amount that you all get to disperse, what happens is I look at how much revenue has been collected so far this year, how much we project that you'll still collect in revenue, and then I look at the carry forward number from last year and make sure that you're going to have enough to kind of cover what you're projecting to collect next year. So I don't have those numbers just yet, because I've been doing this stuff all week, and revenue just posted. So I'll continue to look at that, and we'll have that number before they go to EOF.
I asked because when we got to EOF last year, the EOF board, we were originally told that we had to cut all of the allocations compared to, well, it would have been 2 years ago. And then you came back to us about an hour into deliberations and said that you were able to recalculate the carry forward on EOF and actually allow us to have an increase. It's my understanding that we used some of that carry forward last year to avoid having to make cuts last year. So with us having used that carry forward, and with them now asking for a 30-cent decrease, how much would we have to cut those allocations
I
this
can't
year?
give you that number, but like, what we look at, so you allocate out, let's say you allocate out $500,000,
Right,
okay? You put $500,000 into all these different accounts across campus to everybody that you allocate money out to. There's no 100% guarantee that all of those departments are going to use 100% of that money. So we kind of guesstimate how much is actually going to be spent based off of what's been spent up to today. And what I like to do is I like to project that they're going to spend 100% of the funds they've allocated out. But at the end of the fiscal year, so June 30th, if they haven't spent those funds, that now becomes your next year carry forward. So that's, it's always tricky to say yes, you need to cut funds, and the reason you're cutting funds is because maybe what we thought was going to carry forward last year and what's been collected in revenue this year is not balancing out. So revenue for spring is down a little bit from what we projected for this year because the enrollment numbers were slightly down for spring. So, I mean, it's all projecting, it's, I can't give you a definite answer right in the second. Here's how much you're gonna have to cut, because I haven't had a chance to look to see how much revenue has been collected and what your carry forward number was last year.
If I might add, kind of in my head, the way that I was thinking about this when I was deciding how much I was, Danae had, we're encouraging budget cuts across the board, trying to consolidate where we're spending our money and make sure that it's being used efficiently. And you allocated about $250,000. The 30-cent fee dollar decrease is only going to be approximately cutting revenue by $14,000 or $15,000. And the odds of all the EOF applications 100% utilizing all $250,000 that was allocated is unlikely. I mean, I would say almost impossible. And so we're only talking about a 15,000 number compared to a 250,000 that we're assuming is going to be 100% spent, which is very, very unlikely.
and you know, based on the disclosures in the FY 2025 budget book, that for EOF, we had 3 programs who usually receive those allocations that did not apply. We had the University Academic Support Center for, I think it was graduate scholarships or graduate student salaries. We had museum studies and we had Indigenous studies, which did not apply for scholarship funding. So last year in EOF, we already did not have as many applicants as we usually have, and we still struggled to meet all of those allocations without making cuts.
Is there a question?
Yes, how do you still think it's responsible to have this 30-cent decrease, knowing that these organizations will likely come back and apply for funding?
Well, I think that ties right back into what was in the presentation. This is a component of it is responsible in the sense of fiscal responsibility and from a responsibility standpoint of the entire student fee process. This is a component of way larger initiatives. We can only give out $10 in fees, approximately, based on what K4 said. So we have 3.5 times that in ask. So there's going to be And that's not even factoring in our $170,000 loss that we're operating at. If we don't start hacking away at that debt, which this $15,000 cut is gonna be directly contributing to, I don't know where you see us going in 5 years if we continue to spend money that theoretically on the books we don't have.
Chris,
Does anyone else have questions for Mrs. Jones?
I have a question, but it's not related to this, so finish this.
I have a question, I think it might be for the back row. We have the student senate activity fee, which makes up most of our operational budgets, like salaries and office supplies. Educational opportunity funding is a separate line on the budget book. As far as I understood it last year, whatever happens with EOF, an increase, a decrease, carry forward, no carry forward, does not affect the operating budget for student senate and does not directly relate to the deficit.
Yes,
Is that correct?
but our Senate activity fee we're asking for a $3.25 increase. So in the net aggregate sense, we're trying to make up differences in that so we can attack that deficit by reducing funding from other sources.
Okay, so when you guys presented like the student senate like salary and like
Mhm.
operating budget, can you just, because not everybody may understand where that comes from, do you want to explain where that money is allocated from? Because it's not technically allocated here today.
Yeah, so that comes from block funding.
Do you have any other questions? Or if not, thank you.
Did you have something
Yeah.
All right, Ham's gonna present for CDF.
Yeah, so the Community Development Fund, again, operates similar to EOF where it does have its own fee line. It used to be referred to as the DEI Fund, for those of you who don't know. Now it's been rephrased after that whole ordeal with the university guidance. So it's kind of a brief overview. What is the CDF? So this funding line is specifically designed to help promote and fund student organizations, encouraging diversity initiatives, intercultural education, support for marginalized, underrepresented student groups here on campus. And so far, so in FY25, we had just around that $11,000 mark in line item allocations. And to date, we have allocated just under $30,000 in these cycle allocations from last semester and then the first semester cycle that we had a couple Tuesdays ago. So far, we've processed 45 in-cycle requests, 28 unique organizations. So there is an impact there. Also supported travel to 4 student conferences. So a lot of these groups that are pursuing CDF funding are looking to attend maybe some kind of regional conference, seeing requests for that sort of stuff. And that funding process is much harder to go through the usual Senate activity fee, like Wednesday night or line funding process. So this allows them a little bit more flexibility when pursuing those sorts of funding opportunities. We've also supported a few new clubs this semester. Or last semester, some new clubs getting off the ground, funded some first meetings for some undergraduate students who are looking to start new clubs on campus. That's been really cool to see. So our ask, $1.30 in fiscal year 25, a decrease of 15 cents to $1.15 for fiscal year 26. And again, projected based on the enrollment numbers that are projected for fiscal year 26, this would decrease the revenue of the CDF line by around $6,500, around that mark. So the reasoning for the decrease, again, Senate's financial problems. I think a lot of it's the same rationale that we just went through, so I won't bother really rehashing that. We also have a large amount of carry forward. So entering fiscal year 25, we had just under $35,000 in carry forward. And this is money, it's a little bit different than like a Senate activity fee carry forward because the CDF fund has 0 salaried employees. So there is no 90-day reserve requirement. So this is money that should be spent. And typically after speaking with our advisors, this number should be sitting more around the $5,000 to $6,000 mark. and just kind of be used as a safety backup in case of, I don't know, some kind of delayed invoice or something like that, worst case scenario kind of situation. So this year in revenue, around $56,000 in revenue, plus our carry forward puts us right around that $90,000 mark. This is the CDF fee over time. So we had a large increase from fiscal year 24 to 25, which was very good for the fund, and we were able to help build a little bit more of that carry forward. So with this decrease, it's going to be about an 11.5% decrease compared to last year, which was a 62.5% increase from fiscal year 24. That decrease, which is it's under 15% decrease, that combined with that $35,000 in carry forward, projecting that the net impact to student organizations that we're attempting to fund and would like to fund in the future next fiscal year would be extremely minimal, if any, at the end of the day. Any questions?
What questions do you have, Chris?
Could you give us the napkin map, just whatever assumptions you need to make for the carry forward, based on this new fee, what would be like CDF's total allowed allocations next year?
So it actually might end up being more. So I was just speaking with Matea this morning, and based on the enrollment numbers that we think 26 is going to be looking like, we'll generate like 50 to 51,000 in revenue, compared to, I think that number was like 57 this year. So lose about 6 plus the 30, let's say 25 of carry forward that we have, just on the very conservative side. We'd still be looking at well over $75,000. So, and that's why I think at the end of the day, this is likely going to be a short-term reduction. I could see it going back up in a fiscal year or two. And then in that time, we can kind of cover the gap with using our $35,000 carry forward.
Do you have any other questions? I think you have.
All right, we've reached the end of presentations. We will be back in this room at 1 p.m. for deliberations. So you all are free to go until then, unless any of the advisors have anything. All right, you guys are free to go, but be back here, please, a little before 1 so we can start at 1. Shay, can you help me turn the live stream on?
I know.
They're digging in circling.
Yeah.
What'd you guys do? You guys do something about that?
It took me and Shane a real long time to figure it out.